You're sitting at the kitchen table with your partner doing that thing couples do where you stare at your bank account and try to figure out where all the money went. Between the two of you, you're pulling in $130,000 a year. That's more than your parents made combined. Probably more than your grandparents could have imagined. You should be crushing it. Building wealth, taking vacations, feeling secure. Instead, you're stressed about whether you can afford new tires this month. You've got maybe 2 months of expenses saved up. And when the car needed an unexpected repair last week, it went on a credit card. Both of you work full-time, sometimes more. You're exhausted. You rarely see each other except for a few tired hours in the evening. And here's the really messed up part. You did everything right. You got the degrees, the careers, the house in a decent school district. You followed the script. So why does it feel like you're drowning? Back in 2003, a Harvard bankruptcy law professor published research after analyzing over 2,000 families who had gone broke. What she found should have been front-page news everywhere. These families weren't filing bankruptcy because they were irresponsible. They weren't buying jet skis and taking European vacations. Adjusted for inflation, the average family was spending 33% less on clothing than families in the 1970s, 23% less on food, and 51% less on appliances. They were more frugal than their parents' generation. So where did all the money go? The research discovered something that sounded completely backwards. Having two incomes didn't make families more financially secure. It made them more vulnerable. Families with two working parents were more likely to file for bankruptcy than single-income families. Working twice as hard, bringing home 2 paychecks, doing everything the modern economy told you to do, and you end up more likely to lose everything. Here's the comparison that destroys the illusion. A single-earner family in the early 1970s brought home about $42,450 in inflation-adjusted dollars. They spent roughly 54% on fixed costs. That left them with about $19,560 in discretionary income. Room to breathe, room to save, room to handle an emergency. Now look at the early 2000s. A dual-earner family brings home $73,770. That's 75% more income. They should be destroying it financially, right? Except their mortgage jumped 81%. Health insurance went up 74%. And suddenly they are paying for things that barely existed as major expenses before. $6,000 to $7,000 a year for childcare, another $8,000 for a second vehicle. Their tax rate climbed from 24% to 30%. After all those fixed obligations, that dual-income family making $31,000 more per year had roughly $1,500 less in discretionary income than the single-earner family from a generation before. More money coming in, less money left over. It's like getting a promotion and somehow ending up broker. And if you think that was bad in 2003, wait until you see what housing did to that equation. Let me tell you about a couple in their early 30s who had been saving for years and were finally ready to buy their first house. They are looking at a standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a decent school district. Nothing fancy. The house has builder-grade everything. The carpet is that generic beige that screams 2015 and the backyard is roughly the size of a parking space. The asking price, $485,000. In 1970, the national home price-to-income ratio was roughly 2.6. Buy a house for 2.5 years of household income. By 2025, that ratio hit 7.0. Your buying power didn't just get cut in half. It got decimated. And you're using two incomes to do it. In markets like San Jose, the ratio is over 12. San Francisco 10.5. Los Angeles nearly 11. These aren't penthouse apartments in Manhattan. This is where regular people with regular jobs are trying to live. It became an arms race. Every family started showing up to open houses with two incomes. The family with one income couldn't compete. So now two incomes became the minimum bid, not the advantage. Homes in the highest-rated school districts now command a massive price premium over surrounding areas. In some Texas suburbs, for example, you're looking at a median home price of roughly $1.5 million inside the good school district versus about $550,000 just outside it. That's not a school district premium. That's a ransom payment. You're essentially paying an extra $1 million for the privilege of not having to pay for private school. The math doesn't math. To afford a median-priced home in 2025, you need a household income of roughly $112,000 to $141,000. The median household income is $83,150, which means 74.9% of households, more than 100 million families, cannot afford a median-priced home. The median age of a first-time home buyer hit 40 years old. It used to be late 20s. People are spending their entire 30s saving for a down payment on a house their parents bought at 25. This couple eventually got their offer accepted. They put down 10%, which was $48,500 they scraped together over 6 years. Their mortgage payment is $3,180 a month. Add property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and they are at about $4,200 monthly. That's 35% of their gross income going to housing. They tell themselves it's fine. It's temporary. They'll refinance when rates drop. They'll get raises. It'll get easier. Spoiler, it won't. But here's what nobody talks about. That $143,000 household income, it's not real. Let me show you where it actually goes. Healthcare is where it starts. Their employer-sponsored family plan costs about $27,000 per year in total premiums. One company covers most of it, but they are still paying $570 a month out of pocket. Then there's the deductible, $3,000 per family. Then co-pays every time they actually use the insurance. Total annual healthcare spending about $10,200. That's $850 a month before they've treated a single illness. Back in 1999, that total premium would have been about $5,791. It's nearly quintupled while their salaries definitely haven't. And they are the lucky ones. They have employer coverage. 3 consecutive years of 6% plus premium increases, and every benefits email sounds like an apology letter. Then there's the stuff they don't warn you about. Property insurance jumped 8% this year, now running $292 a month. Auto insurance for 2 cars, $245 a month, up 46% since 2022. Car payments, because they both need reliable transportation to get to the jobs that pay for the cars, $680 a month combined. Gas, $320 a month. Groceries, because they are trying to eat relatively healthy and not die of processed food, $950 a month. Utilities, internet, phones, $380 a month. We're at $4,200 for housing, $850 for healthcare, $680 for cars, $245 for car insurance, $320 for gas, $292 for home insurance, $950 for groceries, $380 for utilities. That's $7,917 per month in fixed costs. And we haven't touched student loans, which are $520 a month, or the fact that they are humans who occasionally need clothing, haircuts, or to leave the house. They bring home about $8,900 per month after taxes. After fixed costs, they have $983 left. Less than $1,000 for literally everything else in their lives. Retirement savings, emergency fund, medical co-pays, new tires when the check engine light comes on. That's all coming out of $983. And we still haven't added kids to this equation. This is what the two-income trap actually looks like. It's not theoretical. It's someone eating a protein bar for lunch at their desk because they can't afford to eat out anymore. It's lying awake at 2 a.m. doing mental math about whether they can afford to fix the fence this month or if it needs to wait. It's both of them working full-time and somehow feeling broker than their parents did on one income. Here's the part that should keep you up at night. They have no backup plan. Both of them are already working. Both incomes are already fully committed to keeping the lights on. If either one of them loses their job, they don't lose 50% of their income. They lose their ability to function. Their whole structure collapses. Back in the 1970s, when one parent stayed home, that arrangement functioned as financial insurance. If the working parent lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could enter the workforce and bring in new income. They had a reserve they could activate. Modern dual income families have already activated their reserve just to cover baseline expenses. There's nothing left to activate. And it gets worse. Having two workers in the labor force doubles their exposure to job loss, illness, or disruption. Two people who can get sick, two people who can get laid off, two people whose companies can relocate or restructure. When one earner in a dual income household loses their job, the family loses about 40 to 50% of income overnight. Unemployment insurance replaces only 37% of prior wages on average. In 33 states, unemployment benefits cover less than half of former earnings. If one partner loses that $75,000 salary, they lose their house. Not eventually. Within about 3 months. They have 2 months of expenses saved, and that's being generous. Bankruptcy data confirms this isn't rare. Filings climbed 14.2% in 2024 to over 517,000 cases. Married couples with children, the group most likely to be dual income, were twice as likely as childless couples to file. The top 3 drivers: job loss at 78%, medical issues at 65%, divorce. You work your entire adult life, do everything right, and one bad break can erase all of it. Family members keep asking when they are going to have kids. They keep deflecting. How do you explain that you can't afford children on $143,000 a year when the previous generation raised 3 kids on 1 income? How do you say that out loud without feeling like you failed at something fundamental? Now for the part where the math turns genuinely cruel. Let's run the actual numbers on what happens to a $68,000 salary after it goes through the gauntlet of taxes, childcare, commuting, and what financial planners call the exhaustion tax. Because when you see where the money actually goes, the whole illusion collapses. That $68,000 doesn't start at a 0 tax rate. It stacks on top of the other income, entering the tax code at the household's existing marginal rate. Federal income tax on that $68,000 comes to about $8,580. Payroll taxes take $5,200. State income tax at 5% grabs $3,400. Total tax bite, $17,182. Down to $50,818 before a single work-related expense. Now comes childcare. 2 kids eventually. Center-based infant and toddler care in their area, $14,400 per kid per year. 2 kids, $28,800 annually. Take home after taxes is $50,818. Subtract childcare, $28,800. Now at $22,018 for the entire year. But we're not done. Driving 35 minutes each way to work. That's an hour and 10 minutes a day, roughly 250 working days a year, about 290 hours annually in the car. At current gas prices and factoring in maintenance and depreciation, total driving cost is about 72 cents per mile. Driving roughly 9,000 miles a year for work. That's $6,480 annually. Down to $15,538. Then there's the exhaustion tax. And this is where it gets personal. Too tired to cook most nights. Between commuting, working, and just existing, they are ordering delivery 3 times a week. That's about $65 per order with fees and tip. $195 a week, $10,140 annually. They tell themselves they'll meal prep on Sundays. They never do. Someone has to clean the house because neither of them has energy after work. Bi-weekly cleaning service, $4,200 annually. Pre-made salads because they are trying to be healthy but don't have time to chop vegetables, premium of about $2,000 annually over cooking from scratch. Add it up. Delivery $10,140. Cleaning service $4,200. Convenience food premium $2,000. That's $16,340 in exhaustion spending. That $68,000 salary after taxes of $17,182, childcare of $28,800, commuting of $6,480, and exhaustion spending of $16,340 nets negative $82. Working full-time, missing the hypothetical kid's childhood, and the household is paying $300 a month for the privilege. Even if we cut the exhaustion spending in half, which is unrealistic for 2 full-time working parents with 2 young kids, that $68,000 salary nets roughly $7,800 annually. That's about $650 a month. That's $3.75 per hour for a college-educated professional with 8 years of experience. They'd make more working part-time at a warehouse store. This is the two-income trap in its purest, most undeniable form. You're not building wealth. You're not getting ahead. You're running on a treadmill that's actively on fire and someone's charging you for the privilege. Older family members keep saying they're overthinking it. Just buy their house. Have the kids. It'll work out. It worked out for them, right? Except the previous generation bought a house on one income while the other parent stayed home with 3 kids. That world doesn't exist anymore. Or does it? Here's the counterintuitive truth that a growing number of people are figuring out. Their way out requires doing something that feels insane, deliberately leaving money on the table. While everyone else is bidding both incomes to win the housing wars and the school district arms race, you refuse to play. Structure all your essential expenses around one income. Treat the second income as entirely disposable, directed towards savings, debt elimination, and investment. Let me tell you about another couple. One makes $82,000 as an accountant. The other makes $61,000 as a project manager. Combined income, $143,000, basically identical to the first couple. But they made a different choice. They bought a $280,000 house in a solid but not prestigious school district. It's 25 minutes further from downtown. The schools are rated 7 out of 10 instead of 9 out of 10. Their mortgage payment is $1,850 instead of $3,180. They drive older Hondas that they bought in cash. No car payments. Total monthly fixed costs structured around the $82,000 income, $4,100. The entire $61,000 salary after taxes is about $45,000 take home. It goes straight to savings and investments. They max out both retirement accounts. That's $14,000. They are putting $15,000 into retirement plans. The remaining $16,000 builds their emergency fund and goes into a taxable brokerage account. They've been doing this for 6 years. They now have $340,000 in investments and a fully paid off house. If one loses their job tomorrow, they are fine. The house payment, food, utilities, everything essential is covered by one income. If the other loses their job, the remaining income covers everything while they find something new. They have options. The first couple has obligations. The math is compelling. At a 50% savings rate, which is what a dual-income household living on one paycheck effectively achieves, the standard retirement timeline compresses dramatically. A family spending $50,000 annually needs $1.25 million to reach financial independence. Saving $45,000 to $50,000 per year with normal market returns gets you there in 12 to 15 years. Not 40 years, not 30 years, 15 years. The practical strategies are straightforward. Automate the savings so the second income never hits your checking account. Use the 50-30-20 rule for raises. 50% to savings, 30% to lifestyle, 20% to taxes. This prevents lifestyle inflation from resetting your baseline every time you get a bump. Geographic arbitrage matters too. Remote work means you can earn high cost of living wages while living where the price-to-income ratio is 3.2 instead of 12.2. But the core principle is simple. Never let your fixed costs require both paychecks. The moment you do, you've entered the trap. And getting out is exponentially harder than never getting in. The two-income trap doesn't send you a warning letter. You won't wake up one day and realize you've been caught. It happens slowly, one reasonable decision at a time. You'll tour that house and think we can make this work, everyone else is doing it. You'll sign up for the daycare and think it's temporary, just until they are in school. You'll finance the second car and think we both need reliable transportation. You'll order delivery on a Wednesday night and think we've had a long week, we deserve this. And 10 years later you're making $143,000, living paycheck to paycheck, wondering where it all went wrong. Except nothing went wrong. The system worked exactly as designed. You played by the rules, did everything you were supposed to do, and the rules absorbed both your incomes before you could build anything that looked like wealth or security or options. The numbers are unambiguous. A home price to income ratio that jumped from 2.0 to 7.0. Childcare that exceeds college tuition in 38 states. Healthcare premiums that quadrupled since 1999. A second income that can net as little as $3.77 per hour after all costs. This isn't a personal finance problem. It's a structural condition created by 3 decades of essential costs rising faster than any single paycheck can cover, compounded by a competitive dynamic where dual incomes became the minimum bid for middle-class life. The families feeling broke on $130,000 or $150,000 aren't bad with money. They are operating inside a system that absorbed their second income before they ever saw it. The escape route isn't mysterious. Never let your fixed costs require both paychecks. Drive the older car, live in the smaller house, skip the prestigious school district, and bank the difference. Every dollar you don't lock into fixed costs is a dollar that buys you options, flexibility, resilience. The two-income trap won't announce itself. You'll sign the mortgage, enroll the kids, finance the cars, and one day you'll be sitting at your kitchen table wondering why you feel broke despite doing everything right. The only way out is seeing the trap before you're in it. And now you've seen it.